Welcome to Mystara for what was supposed to be an early video because there was a hurricane coming and I wanted to get this recorded before I lost power, but then the hurricane decided to go south because Corpus is so much prettier than Houston, so I'm just doing this on my regular schedule. The first time around this topic came up, you guys weren't interested in the Rot Dwarves or the Modrigswerg, but now you want to hear all about them. They are an enigmatic race found on pages 24 to 28 of the DM's book for the Northern Reaches Gazetteer. They stand out because they break all the rules for dwarves in Mystara, and are both all-powerful and horribly cursed. So it's time to spill the beans on the most evil and twisted dwarves in probably all of D&D. I'm Mr. Welch, and today we're learning how to pronounce Modrigswerg. Officially, very little is known about the Rot Dwarves, aka the Modrigswerg, aka the Molder Dwarves. They never appeared again in any Mystara book or supplement before or after their mention in the Northern Reaches. They are said to be allied with the Dark Elves, which causes a continuity snarl, as well as the Father of Demons, who isn't explained. The Dark Elves could easily be originally part of the Schattenalfen, or possibly a group of unseelie Sidhe. Based on the power that the Dark Elves were supposed to have, nothing else makes sense, not even the Drow from other worlds. Whoever they were, once the Modrigswerg were driven out of Rockholm, the Dark Elves were never heard from again. If they were Schattenalfen, there's a good chance they were killed off or driven back into the Hollow World. The Sidhe just might have gotten bored with their dwarf toys and decided to go find new things to play with. The book is deliberately vague on the origins of the Rot Dwarves, as well as the reason for their curse. This is specifically left up to the Dungeon Master to decide, but what is made clear is the Modrigswergs are peerless artisans, skilled in the arcane arts, utterly evil, and each one uniquely insane and mutated. The dwarves are located in a single location, where the Makras and the Hardanger mountain ranges meet in southern Soderfjord. They're trapped there because of their curse. You're not going to find them anywhere else, because if they leave that region, they will very quickly grow ill and die. Players not familiar with the Modrigswerg, especially players from other settings, tend to see them as just the Mystara version of Duergar from the Forgotten Realms. Specifically the Sword Coast of the Forgotten Realms, as nothing else ever happens anywhere in Faerun except the Sword Coast. This comparison is a bit faulty because of several factors. Duergar numbers are vast compared to the Modrigswerg. The Grey Dwarves also tend to work together towards a single goal. They have some magical powers, but most are just grunts for their commanders. As such, Duergar are typically lawful evil. Modrigswerg, on the other hand, are textbook chaotic evil. They aren't numerous, though they are individually much more powerful than most Duergar. They don't work well together, content to do their foul magics isolated and as far from their twisted kin as possible. On occasion, the Rot Dwarves will work toward a single goal in small groups, but as soon as whatever they were building is done, they will always go their separate ways. You're not going to be fighting an army of Modrigswerg. If you enter a Rot Dwarf's lair, it will almost always be solitary. The most identifiable aspect of the Modrigswerg is their curse. The entire race is under an immortal curse. There's no way to lift it without divine intervention, and the Immortals that put it there have no reason to lift it at all. Most dwarves believe that Kaggiar is the immortal behind the curse, but as the sins of the Rot Dwarves are on par with the Nithian Empire for measure, it could be any immortal or even a whole group of them. The curse is threefold. First off, the dwarves are all insane. The insanity is different for each dwarf. Some are mad dog killers, creating construct after construct and sending them loose on the world. Others are more rational and capable of creating weapons and artifacts of vast power, though creation always comes with a price for mortals. The second part of the curse twists the dwarves into mutated forms. Each mutation is unique. While the mutations might be extreme in deformity, none of them will be life-threatening. The Rot Dwarves are meant to suffer from their deformity. Having it kill them defeats the purpose. In many cases, the deformity is beneficial to the Rot Dwarf, such as dragon scale skin that gives them protection against heat, or an over-muscled single arm that lets them work an anvil with ease. The Modrigswerg are hard to look at because the deformity twists their form into a visage that marks them as bearers of a divine curse to any that see them. The third part of the curse is the most restricting, as they are trapped in their caverns in the Hardanger Mountains. They can't leave their home, as in a matter of days they weaken and die. This cannot be prevented by any mortal magic or even artifact, as their curse links their life force to the mountains of Soderfjord. Because of this, the Rot Dwarves have to use proxies and agents to do their bidding. Each one tends to have multiple constructs that work as servants, as well as more than a few slaves bound to them. One interesting aspect of this part of the curse is it makes the Rot Dwarves seemingly incapable of dying of old age. The exact date of the Modrigswerg exile is unknown to outsiders, but tales tell of Rot Dwarves that haven't aged in over 5 centuries. And while Modrigswerg tend to be very insane, their minds also tend to be very sharp at the same time. Unlike the Rockborn Dwarves, Modrigswerg are capable of arcane magic. In fact, many of them thrive in its practice. How this came to be is a mystery and probably part of the reason for their curse. The Rot Dwarves practice life-binding magic, using the death of a creature to enchant an object or replicate a spell. This magic was learned from the Dark Elves according to their lore, but it's not a magic found anywhere else in Mystara, not even among the Schattenalfen of the Hollow World. The other type of magic practiced by the Modrigswerg is Conjuring. It does seem to be the only school of magic they prefer to use on a regular basis. If you're playing 5th edition and using the rules for Artificers, that class fits the Rot Dwarves like a glove. From what other sourcebooks have explained about magic, other than Divine or Arcane in Mystara, all signs indicate that the Modrigswerg bargain for outside magic, like from the Unseelie She, or even contacting a Demon Lord from the Hells, and probably one of the more powerful ones, if the Demon Lord could get around the Council of Intrusion, even if just for a brief period. If you wanted to throw the players for a loop, the Ord could have bargained with the dwarves to act as their agents, or even time-traveling Temple of the Frog cultists trying to bring Blackmoor technology to the present in exchange for magical artifacts to help in the past. The same Blackmoor technology that has a bad habit of vaporizing entire chunks of maps. So there's a reason why the Immortals tend to bring down the hammer hard on those that seek assistance from outside the Immortals. What makes the Modrigswerg relevant in a lot of campaigns is their ability to create magic items of vast power. If they were just insane dwarf mutants trapped in their mountain, nobody would care. They can't leave, so if you don't go to them, you've got nothing to be afraid of. But instead, the Rot Dwarves have one very powerful talent. They can create artifacts of almost unrivaled power. Their creations are just below immortal artifacts in power, on par only with the works of the mighty Hephaestus. The Rot Dwarves also don't concern themselves with making minor magic items. They won't make anything unless it's legendary or unique in rarity. A sword +1 bores them, so go Vorpal or go home. So great is their skill, you can half the creation time of whatever they're forging, though you have to double the price. If you're looking to commission a magic item from them, remember how they forge them. That's probably not going to sit well with the paladin as they power their magic through living sacrifices. Any magic item forged by the Modrigswerg is going to come with a heavy price, usually in the form of a curse. Many of the intelligent swords possess the souls of unfortunate individuals kidnapped by the dwarf's minions. Some of the items are powered by elementals or outer planar creatures who serve the dwarf for a time powering the artifact. When their term of service is up, the creature is freed from the artifact and might not be friendly to whoever used up the last charge in the artifact holding it. The Modrigswerg are mentioned repeatedly working with the Dark Elves, who are never mentioned in any other book at all on who they could be. There's not as many candidates on who these Dark Elves could be based on their description in the book. The Shadow Elves are right out. They don't come anywhere near the power level described in the book, especially with the life transfer magic. The Schattenalfen of the Hollow World are evil enough, but again, they're not that powerful. For Mystara races, Unseelie are the best option, since Fey magic tends to be about shaping reality rather than creating something new. The dwarves have multiple magic items where another creature was literally forged into an artifact, including the Ring of the 9 Svartalfen, which is 9 different Dark Elves welded into a ring for a giant, each elf a master sage on a different arcane subject. You can see Unseelie bargaining souls for that purpose, but races like Drow, Eladrin, or Shadowkai, not so much. You can't understate how powerful individual Modrigswerg are. They create weapons for Immortals in return for treasures beyond mortal reckoning. They have mastered the runic language given to mortals by the Aesir, where a human can only handle 1 or 2 runes. Most Rot Dwarves can typically engrave all of them. They use the runes in their constructs as well as their elaborate traps that they fill their lairs with. Most Modrigswerg possess artifact weapons they created for their own defense, as well as rare and powerful magic items they crafted for their own use. That's not even counting most of their servants are going to be golems of the most powerful varieties, and Mystara has a ton of golems and other constructs to throw at players. When encountering Modrigswerg, assuming the encounter isn't going to go straight into epic battle, the Modrigswerg are notoriously archaic, following ancient dwarven customs in their own twisted styles. Expect a lot of these and thous when you talk to them. They will be constantly referring to battles and events from centuries past that only they remember, but expect you also to know about them. So bring a bard if you have to deal with the Modrigswerg. Rot Dwarves do trade with the outside world, again, usually through proxies. They have no time for anything except their forge, so all their needs have to be catered for. Because of this, they have kobold slaves that serve them, though the Rot Dwarves are often tired of their bland food or incompetence. They will hire adventurers to bring them exotic meals or rare spell components. Modrigswerg serve as a unique villain for Mystara because they can serve so many roles. Sure, you can have one be the boss monster of a dungeon behind an army of golems and have some of the best built traps that the party will ever come across, but they can also serve as the holder of the MacGuffin that the party needs. If you get tired of Alphax constantly trying to kill your characters for 80% of the master level modules, There's a Rot Dwarf more than willing to sell you an immortal killing spear that will put down the entropic immortal at the low price of your soul. The Rot Dwarves are all evil. These are still the same dwarves that were exiled all those years ago. It's not clear if they're sterile, or if their hatred of others just means they refuse to breed, but since they can't die of old age, as long as they aren't killed by adventurers or their own errors, the cursed dwarves will keep up their evil schemes. If you're looking for evil dwarves to serve as the Dwergar-style mooks in Mystara, Rot Dwarves are not what you're looking for. I suggest you use Clan Borodar Conspirators for your stock evil dwarf faction. Because Modrigswerg are very rarely found working together, they're going to be restricted to being your big bads. And since they gained the use of magic, you can have them play parts normally restricted for dwarves like warlocks or wizards. With Rot Dwarves gone, it's time to pull in another topic that got kicked to the back of the line when I turned the weekly topic into a democracy. The Savage Coast, Sandswrath of the Immortals. Since the Day of Dread caused the Red Curse to spread rapidly, if Alphatia doesn't sink, what does it mean for the Savage Coast? If you like these posts, please like and subscribe. The more popular this channel becomes, the more likely I'll be able to show that there's a demand for Mystara in 5th edition. But until then, remember that just because all dwarves are into rock, metal, and axes doesn't mean they're all headbangers.